Today's tutorial is about one of my favorite things in the world to do, which is zentangling. And zentangling is just a very relaxed form of advanced doodling. It can be in black and white, it can be in color, you can use stamps, stencils. Here I did a liner for a Z. Becky Brown handbag using just traced circles. But it's a very graphic, fun, high contrast activity, and I do find it very soothing. I like to do it when I'm on vacation. It's so relaxing. So now you're going to need some pens. I use the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. They come in various widths. I tend to like the fine and the extra small nibs just for my fine detailing, and then I use a brush to fill in black areas. And some ultra smooth white cardstock. I'm using Whisper White from Stampin' Up. I find that gives it's a very bright white, but it also is a really smooth surface, so my pen doesn't drag on it. And what you want to do when you start zentangling is take a piece of paper or a stamp image or a stencil and subdivide the image into smaller parts. And that helps you have small areas of repetitive designs. This flower, which is Blended Bloom from Stampin' Up, already has the areas subdivided for me in these nice sizes. They're kind of large flower petals. And so my work is already done for me. Most of the time I use a stencil and I subdivide the stencil image. I trace the stencil and then subdivide it myself. But I thought that this flower is the perfect canvas for zentangling on. Then all you do is go into each of these areas and make repetitive patterns with your pen. And one of the things I like to do, you can see me using the brush here, is alternate areas that are primarily white and areas that have more black in them, just so that each of your subdivided areas contrasts with the areas adjacent to it. I also tend to have the patterns look different next to each other, so I might have kind of an organic looking pattern next to a very geometric pattern for additional contrast. And the patterns can come from anywhere. They can come from your brain. If you like to follow pattern instructions, there are some great resources for you to get zentangling patterns from. There's a series of books that I've used, and I'll link all these resources for you. There's also a website called tanglepatterns.net, which has some great free resources, some beautiful patterns that were created by other people. And it also has a worksheet download, which I use all the time, which is a blank template for the kind of standard way that people document the steps of a tangle pattern. And it's a genius way to show the step-by-step process. And you can use these little worksheets to record your own patterns and keep them for, just keep them nearby when you feel like zentangling, and use some of your favorites. I find that I do have favorite patterns that I tend to use over and over again. But the website and the books help me break out of my creature of habit ways and go find new patterns to use. There are some people who are really great at not just zentangling and making beautiful patterns, but also adding shading and shadowing to their zentangle images, which is something I really haven't worked on that much yet, but I sure do like it when I see it, and someday I'll have the time to practice doing that. But I just find this repetitive drawing and coloring so relaxing and fun that I just get lost in it and I don't really worry about what I'm doing. It's also a very portable art form. I tend to take them on vacation with me because I just need pens and paper, but I can create a ton of designs that I can bring home and put onto cards. So I would encourage you to think about large open stamp images that you may never have used this way before, and also die cuts. You know, you could, if you have a bird die, let's say, just cut out the die cut, trace around it to give you that starting shape, and then use that as your canvas for Zentangling. I also use, in addition to just traditional stencils and die cuts to create my shapes, I showed you a Dreamweaver stencil, that dress at the beginning of the video. I love those Dreamweaver stencils for giving me Zentangling shapes. But I also use the kind of old-fashioned tools that you used in school, the templates that just have various sizes of circles in them, and I'll trace, you know, if I have a larger area that I'm filling up, like that Z. Becky Brown handbag, I'll just trace a series of circles onto my cardstock and then subdivide those circles and then work on patterns. There are also triangles that are used for, you know, people who actually do math, sort of use those tools. You can mask off an area on your project with Post-it masking tape. I did that for my Mother's Day cards, and that just gave me a strip across the middle of the card that I then subdivided and Zentangled. And you can use a ruler, of course, or anything that you can trace and create an area that you want to Zentangle in. I bet there are people who can just Zentangle out into the open space of a card without doing the things that I'm talking about, where, you know, you start with a shape or you start with a smaller area and you subdivide that area. But my mind does not work that way. I tend to like small spaces, and I like those spaces defined before I start Zentangling. But if you are a free-range Zentangler, then my hat is off to you. I think that's a very creative mind that can do that. I would encourage you to take a look at, just Google, you know, Zentangle patterns. Take a look at Pinterest. They have some amazing Zentangling boards where you can get your ideas. And in the beginning, just copy patterns that other people have done. You know, it's like anything else. Once you practice it, you'll get kind of a muscle memory with the pen that'll allow you to create your own patterns that you really love and you're proud of. I do make mistakes when I'm Zentangling, because it does let me just relax and not think about anything. Sometimes I don't even think about what I'm Zentangling, and so I'll have an area where I missed a stripe. You know, I was trying to alternate black and white, and I forgot and missed a step. That kind of Lucille Ball moment happens to me a lot. And what I do, or, you know, you draw a line crooked, it's something that'll drive you crazy. So what I do is I just make those areas black after that. I really don't worry about it too much. You can, since you're wielding a black pen on white paper, you can kind of make it whatever you want. Now, I'm actually working on directly on my card front today. I won't be cutting this out and putting it onto anything else. And so after I finished, I wanted to just go around the edge with a gray alcohol marker just to make it lift off of the cardstock a little bit, give it a little three-dimensional look and not something that's so flat. You know, those bright geometric patterns can make it look a little bit flat. And I wanted a little bit of organic look since it is a flower. But what I love is it completely transforms the flower. I mean, I can guarantee you no one saw this stamp and imagined doing this with it. It's just so different from the soft lines of the flower stamp. And that's what I love about Zentangling. I've also seen people, I've kind of been too chicken to try it, but I've also seen people who finish the Zentangle and then color it beautifully, shade it beautifully. I haven't really worked on the shading and mastered that. I typically just leave it very black and white and don't do any shadowing at all, but that'll be something that's on my list to learn for sure. So just make it whatever you like. Make it relaxing. I hope you find it as relaxing and fun as I do. And thank you so much for watching this tutorial.